I believe we are now recording live. Not Working Networking, brought to you by High Court Warrants, debt recovery for business. If indeed you have any outstanding debt within your business or the people that you're working with, do get in touch with us at Not Working Networking and we can link you with the High Court Warrants guys. They're our main sponsors for Not Working Networking, and they're joined by Charles Stanley Wealth Management, Triangle Networks, full fibre internet connectivity, Salcombe Brewery, and the Bootleggers Bar. Now to matters at hand. We're here with Sara Cox, who is meant to be our keynote speaker, but Coxy, unfortunately, day job's getting in the way.
It is, Chris, it is. So we had a last minute change from the men's under 20s Six Nations. So unfortunately, due to sort of travel and COVID and what have you, they've swapped my weekends, which overlaps with your event, I'm afraid.
Well, our event, Coxy, I felt you were going to be part of it. We're going to have to get you down to a future date. So where are you working? What are you doing?
So I'm off up to North Wales, glamorous, I know, to do Wales against Ireland under 20s. So it's a really great opportunity, and it's the first year that we've had the amount of women involved that are involved. So it's a real big step forward, and it's a really good preparation as well for the Women's World Cup that's coming up later on in this year.
Well, I mean, I've sort of been extolling the virtues of you on a few videos that we've now had to edit for release, but you have had quite a magnificent career to date, and as I keep saying, that you don't break records, you make records. So just for everybody that's sort of gathered to have a look at this video, can you just run us through a whistle-stop tour of some landmark moments within your rather magnificent career?
Yeah, I think the biggest landmark moment was the day that I saved you from getting a red card at Exmouth. You messing around on a rugby pitch, and we had to have a stern word with each other. So, though, I think looking at my career so far, it's been a bit of a whirlwind, and it's been something that I never really envisaged happening. And it was something that when I started refereeing, it was just for a bit of a laugh, to be honest, and to keep fit. And then it turned into a hobby that became a bit more serious, and then it turned into my job. And then we've sort of picked up these accolades as I went on, and I still to this day say that I've done a lot of it by accident and just trial and error and just having a bit of fun with it. But I think the most recent one that we've all seen is Harlequins against Worcester. So I became the first female to have ever refereed a men's Gallagher Premiership game. That was quite a landmark in the sport, full stop, because obviously that's never happened before. And previous to that, the highest that a female got to was National One, which is effectively the third tier of rugby in this country. So to then kind of keep breaking that and keep moving forward was quite a big step for the sport in general. But yeah, I found myself at a couple of Olympics, the most recent one in Tokyo, Commonwealth Games, and I've done over 100, and I think it's 112 sevens matches now, and some World Cups. So there's too many I won't bore everyone, but there's too many to keep going on about.
And discussing things like the Olympics and the World Cups and what have you, this is you in the middle as the official that's taking charge of the games. It's not like you sort of and there's no disrespect intended, a fourth official. You are the principal referee at an Olympic final, at a World Cup final, at a Commonwealth Games final.
Yeah, basically. So three of the biggest tournaments of sevens history, if you like, I've been fortunate enough to have actually refereed those finals. So the Tokyo Olympic final, most recently, the Commonwealth final, which I believe was in 2017, I think. It's all merging into 1 year now. And the Sevens World Cup final as well over in San Francisco, which was an unbelievable event in itself. And we built a rugby pitch on a baseball, I think you call it a baseball pitch. So they lifted up, we lifted up a little mound in the middle. They laid a load of turf, and lo and behold, the day before they were playing baseball on it, and the day after they were then playing rugby on it.
Wow. So what I'm keen to get into is, I don't want to be too rugby specific, but I'm keen to sort of high performance. So the Olympics, I mean, did you consider that there would be millions of people watching you before you got into the work in the environment? And if so, what's the thought process when you know millions of people are going to be watching you and critiquing what you do?
It was weird because we had no crowd. So we were unfortunately in the midst of an event that had to abide by a lot of COVID regulation and a lot of COVID rules in a time that it was quite upsetting for the country in itself. So we got to a point where we had the event and we were lucky enough to be involved with that. But what happened is that we had no crowds, and we had quite limited movement in and around the country as well. So that in itself was really different. And it brought with it some changes to the way that teams played as well. And you could quite clearly see that there were some differences between the teams that feed off crowd noise and need that to keep them moving and keep them motivated versus the teams that can almost go into their own heads and be quite happy with whatever environment is surrounding that. So you honestly, you could kind of stand on the other side of the pitch and you daren't fart because you knew someone on the other side could actually hear you.
Always bringing it down to earth, Coxy.
Oh, 100%. Come on now, we're all humans.
Yeah, true. And we'll dig into this Olympics experience because obviously the Olympics is the pinnacle for anybody involved in sport, but it was sort of a challenge in many different ways for you as well because of the COVID protocols. It wasn't quite as ostentatious and extravagant as one would have hoped. Yeah,
exactly. So when we were over and doing the Commonwealth Games, and even in Rio as well, the Olympics back then, is that the crowd brought an element of buzz. They brought an element of sort of real spectacle to it. And in those events, it doesn't really matter what team is on the pitch. They're just quite happy to be there and witness that event. And so for us as referees as well, we want to be a part of that. And it's the same for the players, is that you feed off that buzz, you really enjoy it, and you know that people are engaging with that. So when it wasn't there in Tokyo and you had this massive stadium that was beautiful with not a soul in it, you could honestly hear a pin drop. And it brought a completely different dynamic to how that was, what happened when you ran in. Even just the sort of standing in the middle before you even kick off, and you look around and you think there's just a big screen and the rest of it's empty, because what you see at home, they're pumping in that crowd noise, but what's happening for us is sort of, you can honestly hear yourself sort of thinking. So it's a very, very different dynamic. And we also didn't get to sort of move around the country as we wanted to. So the original plan before COVID really was for us to extend the stay out there, and a few of us were basically going to go on tour around Japan and really embrace that culture. And the same when we were in there as well, is that those days off, you want to go out, you want to go and have a look, see what that country has to offer. The only tour that we got was when the taxi got lost from one stadium to the other, and that was about the extent of our travels when it came to that. But look, you make the most of it. You enjoy the people that are around you, and you sort of learn things about yourself and learn things about other people that you didn't actually know. So it gave you a bit more time and a bit of a different experience that was also quite positive, but just in a different way.
And moving on then, so we've had obviously the Olympics, which wasn't as extravagant, but obviously the Americans certainly know how to put on a party. And San Francisco, how many people were in the stadium there?
Oh my goodness. I don't actually know, but it was unbelievable. So it was all sort of basically one side of the pitch. And the funny thing is that when you stood in the middle of the pitch, one of the players nudged me and said, "We've got a problem." I said, "Well, what problem have we got?" She said, "Well, the posts aren't lined up." I was like, what? She's like, "It's messing my kick up." And I turned to the left and there was a set of posts. I turned to the right and they were off kilter from each other. So I said to her, "I'm not really sure what you want me to do here." I can't go and lift and move the posts. But that was sort of the quirky side of that whole event, is that we've taken one sport that is not very well known in a country and plonked it into a stadium that is extremely well known and probably what they're famous for as well. And so you got to almost feel what that was like to be involved in that event itself. So you go over the other side of the pitch where everyone is warming up, and that would be where the pitch is warming up for the baseball. And you then get to see the hospitality side, where you're within a sort of a breath of people being there and warming up, and the athletes and what have you. So we got to experience both sides of that. And especially for the final as well, there were lots of people in there. There was lots of hustle and bustle, and seeing the changing rooms as well. So we were in the home team's changing room. I thought there was some impressive home team changing rooms in rugby, but this was a world different. Everything you could imagine was in that changing room. Leather sofas, everything you could imagine. And we were all sat there and we're just going around trying to make the most of everything, stocked fridges with things that you've never even seen before. And, you know, you end up as a little bit of a thief because you go around in your bag and you're tipping things in because you think, we're never going to get this again. Zip out. You think you go in with an empty bag and you come out with a full bag and everyone's like, well, where have you got that from? But we're lucky enough that a lot of the staff there were staff of the stadium, so they took us around, and we actually got a ball of the game that had been played the previous week. So that in itself, you know, you don't quite understand. I don't really understand baseball, but you sort of get an understanding of when you see other fans that are baseball orientated and they look and they say, well, you've got a ball that they pitched with and they played with, and people melt and you think, oh, well, actually, yeah, this is pretty cool. So that's sat on the mantelpiece now and no one's allowed to touch it.
That's pretty cool. Well, I listen to lots of podcasts, and I found quite interesting recently was the High Performance podcast. No, it wasn't. It was the Dynamos CEO, Jimmy Carr. And he said, one of the most important things is enjoying the passage of time. That's happiness. And I think one of the things I really enjoy with you, Coxy, is you've got all these amazing landmark moments, but you're certainly enjoying the process throughout as well.
Yeah, 100%. And you've got to understand that I can be two types of people, and it's which one that I want to pick. So I can either go and be a journey person and enjoy that journey and the things that brings, or I can be a destination type of person. And I know when I was younger, it was all about the destination. What accolades can I pick up? What can I do here? Like, and been really focused on that outcome base. Whereas now I think as I got a bit older and a bit grayer, I've decided that actually it's about that journey. And I look back on 9 years of sevens and sometimes wish to myself that I paid a bit more attention to that journey. I've landed in places like Russia. I've been to America. I've been to Australia.
Just quickly to interject for those that don't follow rugby union, sevens is the shortened version and has a global calendar that goes to some pretty exotic locations.
Yeah,
and so back to the thought process that you've been on
physically the more punishing version.
Yeah,
no. So literally, like I say, I wish I'd paid a little bit more attention to that journey and the people that were around me, and you know, just come away with stories. And I've got some great stories. And as you know, is sort of being involved in sport, you're around some like-minded people, but you're around some really amazing people as well. And so, yeah, it's just about absorbing that, understanding who you're around and how you can get the best out of that.
Brilliant. And obviously now you've hit the pinnacle refereeing men's elite level in England, and possibly arguably the top league in the world. What was the fallout from that one? How did you feel in that game? Talk us through running out at the Stoop, and they know how to put on a match day. There's 15,000 people in there,
yeah.
And always booming. And all of the national media have written about it in advance. Thoughts, feelings, and how the day went.
Yeah, so it was interesting. It was if I could bottle that feeling, I think and be able to sell it, I think I'd be a very rich person, because it was unbelievable, but also it was mentally very, very draining, because the appointments went out, and obviously when that goes out to the media, a lot of people want to know and understand and almost break that story first, that this is about to happen. And it did, and it happened for a week, and my phone wouldn't stop going, my emails wouldn't stop pinging, I doubled my social media following and so on and so forth. And that in itself is quite difficult to manage, and especially when you're not really ready for it. Because to me, I'm just going out and I'm doing my job, but to everyone else, this is quite a landmark thing, and this is a quite landmark thing for the sport in general. And so, you know, you kind of get to the game itself, and that's probably the easiest bit is just going out there and doing what you've done for thousands and thousands of hours previous to that. So yeah, look, it was amazing. And I remember standing in the tunnel and watching the two teams go out, and I've done that plenty of times, and normally I've got a flag in my hand, and you know, I'm not the sort of captain of that ship, but this time this was falling on me. I was making those decisions. I was going to be the one that sort of the cameras were pointing at. And so normally, you know, they introduce the referee, so on and so forth. But all of a sudden now they're introducing the referee. I can see myself on the big screen. I've got a reaction from the crowd. And I remember thinking to myself, Christ, I hope I look all right in these shorts when I'm looking at the big screen. And I think to myself, right, I've got to make sure that I've got no double chin. So I'm like, every time I'm talking to someone, I'm sort of pushing my jaw out like, yes, how can I help you? But there's some unbelievably awful pictures that they managed to get of me, but there's some quite nice ones as well. But honestly, I'll never forgive Phil Mingo and his team for taking pictures. And honestly, there's some of them are horrendous. And I think, like, why me? Like, make a nice one on a strike through when I look like really athletic, not that I'm like all hunched up with a funny face and a fat chin. So
well, it's good that you're picking on some of the less important facets, but obviously you were all over the national media. Your social media footstep grew twice as much. Coping mechanisms, because with the clamour like that, there are some of the more nefarious things take place. How have you dealt with some of the trolling that you've obviously faced? And carrying on with that question, we'll put a positive in. And how have you felt becoming a role model? I mean, my daughter Beatrice absolutely adores you. I think there must be a lot of new fans as well. So the negative and the positive side of this newfound fame.
Yeah, I'd say newfound fame is more that I'm infamous than I am famous, I think. But no, like it's really interesting because you say this and you say that, you know, you're a role model and you don't really realize that you are, because you're just sort of going out and you're doing your job and you're enjoying that whole process that goes with it. And then you sort of come down and take that Harlequins game after is that people wanted pictures with me. And I was like, me? Like, my life, you sure? Like, you sure? And there's a funny story, actually. Is that my mum's my biggest fan, and it's brilliant. And I know she's watching large proportion.
Coxy, I'm 6'6", 70 stone. I'm your biggest fan.
Oh yeah, no, very true, very true. But yeah, you'll be right. My mum will fight you for the title though. So she's obviously there, and we finished the game, and I wander over to the side and say hello to them, and you know, and there's tears everywhere. Oh, how wonderful, how wonderful. And I was like, brilliant. And then mum starts getting a camera out, and she loves taking pictures. And honestly, if you look through the photo album on her phone, there's some random pictures, because she'll just keep snapping. And you think, well, why have you taken a picture of a stone on the floor? Well, you know, I thought it was very, you know, arty and what. What are you doing, woman? What are you doing? And so I got over to the side, and Joe Marler's floating around as well. And mum shouts across, Joe, and she come
this is Joe Marler, England international British Lions prop.
Correct. Yeah.
One of the highest honours you can have in rugby union.
And I come over, and she kind of brings us both over, and she said, "Can you two have a picture?" And I was like, Mum, I was like, "You're so embarrassing," and walked off. And Joe stood there like, well, I was hoping for a picture. Honestly. And yeah, look, and to be involved in events like that and know that people want to be a part of that and they want to be involved in that is actually quite humbling. And look, there are times that you sort of go back to that point of social media, is that if you're going to have a public platform that people can almost start prying on your life, then you've got to take with that there are going to be elements of things that people don't like and people disagree with, and they want to put their opinion across. And that's fine. If you want to take time out of your day to put your opinion across towards what I'm doing, then I think you probably live in quite a sad existence, because you're not focusing on the right things. You're not focusing on the bigger story. The thing that's bigger than all of us is what this does for the future, and what it does for people behind us, like your daughter, where they can turn around, and rather than having these barriers in place now to say, oh, well, you can't do that because of this, or you can't do that because of that. Now it says, well, you can actually do anything you want, and with a bit of grit and determination and albeit a bit of stubbornness, you can actually get there. And look, this hasn't been plain sailing by any means. And you know, the amount of times that you sort of sit there and you think to yourself, why am I kind of sort of putting myself through this? And especially after the Olympic final as well, where I did get a bit of backlash on social media, and before I'd even got back into the changing room, my phone is alight with rather tasty messages that people feel that they need to send. But at the end of the day, you can't take away the fact that, one, I've done it, and two, that's still an Olympic final, or it's still an event that you guys will never get anywhere close to. So carry on if you want to, but it just provides fuel for me to make me want to keep doing it and basically keep proving you wrong.
That's brilliant. Well, I mean, we've said it's no longer the destination and it's the journey that's key. But what is next for Sara Cox as we're getting towards the end of our 20 minutes? What are you looking forward to in the future?
Who knows? who knows? And I think that's the good bit of it. That's the bit that sort of lights that fire in your belly to go, I don't actually know. And, you know, some people say, oh, it's the fear of the unknown. Well, actually, if you embrace that and go, well, there could be actually something really exciting that comes out of this. I can't pin myself on, oh, I want to do this, or I want to do that, or I want to go to this event, because ultimately I have zero control of that. If they want to select me, they'll put me there. If they don't, then they won't. So that's why get all mixed up in really sort of tunneling your vision into something that potentially you can never have control of. So actually, why don't you control the bits that you can? So can I go to the gym? Can I enjoy being around in events like this, meeting new people, and using that sort of positive story to give it to other people for them to relay? Yeah, I can. So actually, event wise, fine, you can deal with that bit. That's for the people that are paid more than I am. I'll do my bit, and if we meet in the middle, happy days. But I'm a massive believer on still having one eye on what, if you like, the real world looks like, because sports are different. It's a different kettle of fish. It's almost it's false in some ways, and it's not the normality, because my working week probably starts from a Thursday through to a Tuesday, and then your Wednesday's probably your weekend off, if you like. But that's not how we see that in a norm. So it's just about sort of tapping into different things and tapping into different people, and having half an eye on, right, okay, if this all finishes at some point, ultimately it will, because I'll become an old fart and I can't run anymore. What do I do afterwards? How do I do that? And so, you know, I'm studying a master's at the moment. I'm doing events with you guys, and really starting to engage and tell that story again, just so that there is an understanding that, quite frankly, anything is possible.
See, that's amazing. As a Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning, just control the controllables, and we're pretty happy. I think we've had enough time now. What I will say is you are available for weddings, bar mitzvahs, and speaking engagements. If anybody would like to get in touch, I'm more than happy to put anybody watching this deep into the interview to have a chat with Coxy. I wish you all the best. What have you got obviously this weekend coming? Who have you got? Have you got anything?
So this weekend coming, I've got Saracens against Bath, so the second Premiership game.
Oh, are you going to be in the middle?
Yeah, I am. Yeah.
Stop it.
Yes, I know. So, and then it's the under-20s. So by the time you guys are seeing this, I'll have done the game, fingers crossed, COVID permitting, so on and so forth. And then I will also be doing that under-20s game. And look, we're working week by week with appointments, so who knows? But hopefully I can just keep picking up lots and lots of different bits and just making the most of it.
Coxy, once again, big round of applause from me. I'd just like to say, Not Working Networking 7, sponsored by High Court Warrants, debt recovery for business specialists. Do get in touch with us if you'd like any debts recovering. Charles Stanley Wealth Managers, Triangle Networks, full fibre internet connectivity, Salcombe Brewery, purveyors of fantastic alcoholic beverages, and the Bootleggers Bar, a magnificent venue where we'll be frequenting on the 11th of February, 3:30 till 6. Beyond that, anything else from you, Coxy, before we finish this recording?
No, thank you very much. And I hope you guys are all having a lovely afternoon with Chris. And don't take his nonsense.
Smashing. Thanks, Coxy.